our job in industry, our job in security, we have one job. It's the same as military, is to protect. That's it. Nothing else. There's no other job we need to do. It's simply protect people. But we don't do that. We spend so much time justifying our artificial intelligence and it's better than everybody else's. And there's 10 other companies waiting outside your door to tell you that they're better than the person before them. And it's any company is just confused to all heck by who we are, and what we're doing. Simplify the hell out of that, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, there'd be a few changes coming down the line.
So one of the things that I've seen, and talking to industry from my perspective, is this idea, and you brought it up, of sanctuary. And so the way that I became more aware of the problem was, from a briefing that was put together by one of the top 5 audit firms that I was able to look at, where all the data was sanitized. But in this briefing was a number of vignettes of targeted attacks. They called them, little c cyber economic. I call them, or big C cyber economic. I called them little c cyber, big E economic, because the real attack was economic. Cyber was an enabler for the issue. And so what I came to understand is just exactly what you're saying. These companies have these problems, they have these attacks, and then they hide it. And they hide it for a number of reasons. And I almost want to turn that on its head and say, okay, if we're going to create this sanctuary, it ought to come with both carrots and sticks. In other words, the carrots are, if you fess up, we're going to give you a tax benefit, some kind of, and a immunity benefit. But if you don't, and we find out, you're going to get not only going to get slammed in taxes or penalties, you're going to potentially have prosecutorial issues going on. And I think that would provide kind of the openness and transparency. We have a thing in military aviation, actually in all aviation in the United States, called a hazardous air traffic report. And so if you have a traffic violation in the air, not good to have a traffic violation in the air, but if you have one, and as soon as you land, you as a pilot file a HATR, a hazardous air traffic report, then you're basically given immunity. And the whole idea is to promote aviation safety. So I feel like that your point is, let's create an environment where we are being as open and transparent as we can about the problem, because the whole idea is to fix the problem, not to protect the company from being sued, not because ultimately, and this is where I think the Chinese Communist Party has us over the barrel. They look at the entire system and we want to protect the system. And in our society, each company is in essence their own Chinese Communist Party, and that's the only thing they care about.
Well, and that's huge, because again, think about, you hit the nail on the head. I land a plane, if there's an issue, it's reported, it's distributed. The planes behind me, the systems behind me, the architectures behind me learn very, very rapidly as to what's going on. Now, we have the ISACers and we have the InfraGuards and everything else, but just the time it takes to go from point A to point B and dissemination of that information and the intelligence behind it, it's just too slow. It's way too slow. So as an adversary, I break into you using an attack vector. I don't have to change my tactics, because I know I can take out the next 10, 15 companies because nobody's talking to each other. And I also know, again, let's go back to military stuff. A perfect example is Wouldn't it have been nice to have known really early on that our F-35 plans were not exactly in our hands when we thought they were in our hands? Wouldn't it have been nice to have known to be able to course correct, to adjust, to understand, and all of the other criteria there, rather than finding out an exponential amount of time later and realizing that there's very little we could have done about it? Things like that are huge. But again, to your point, we are, this country is amazing, and it's been very, very nice to me. But it's a cluster of 50 little countries inside one country, and it's like, good grief, we're all batting for the same freaking team. Let's try to all work more effectively together.